we go. Hey everyone, this is El Presidente bringing you another episode of the Liverpool Connection podcast. I have with me subject matter expert, Julian Lane, straight from Brentford. We're not in the pub today. BD Riley's has some hen party or something like that going on, so we're doing it on the Zoom today. But we're very excited to have our special guest as we gear towards the World Cup. That's now less than a week away, just about. And our good friend who's based out of Austin, Texas now, Adrian Healey. How are you doing, Adrian?
Hey, I'm great, Stephen. Julian, thanks for inviting me on. I'm sorry we didn't get to do this in the pub, but you never argue with a hen party, do you? If they want the space, then they can have it. Yeah, I'm not getting in there.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, how are you? You're resting up after the long MLS season, being the main announcer for Austin FC and their exciting season. But then yesterday you were doing a game, a La Liga game with one of our Liverpool legends, Luis Garcia. So how'd that go?
Fabulous. First of all, it was a really entertaining game because it was Barcelona against Osasuna. It was their last game before the international break, and Luis is just fantastic. It was actually the first game I've ever done with him. I've worked with him before on that ESPN FC show that has a couple of other Liverpool legends on. But first time I've done a game with Luis, and he's great. He's a great analyst. We actually had some technical problems. So picture this. I'm sat in Austin at the Longhorn Network, which is an ESPN network, college network here, in a room like this, looking at a screen. He's sat at his home in Spain. I'm not sure exactly where he lives right now. I think it's still up in somewhere near Barcelona. And it's all, so I'm doing the game, he's doing the game from there, and it's all going through Bristol, Connecticut. It's the craziest thing, but it was fabulous. I did tell him a little bit about the Austin chapter of the Liverpool supporters clubs that I've become familiar with, and the pub and everything. So he seemed really into that. So
yeah, we'll be more than happy to host him on one of our famous Legends events, in the near future. You had mentioned ESPN. You were a longtime announcer for them, and I know you're still doing some games with them, here and there. But that's where I first, got to know you, and I know a lot of people across the pond have known you for a while. You're doing games for the Euros, the World Cup. I believe your first World Cup was the 2006 one in Germany.
Yeah. It's crazy with another World Cup just around the corner. Thinking back to that one, which was a great, because I'd really only been with ESPN 2 or 3 years at that time. So I was actually kind of very lucky to get a World Cup that early, but ended up doing 3 World Cups for them: Germany, South Africa, and Brazil. And then they lost the rights. Fox came in and gobbled up all the World Cup rights. So that particular pleasure has been removed from anyone to do with ESPN for the last 2 tournaments. But looking forward very much to just being able to relax and watch this as a fan, because it's just there's nothing like it, really.
How different will it be for you?
It must have made a good impression, right? So to get that first World Cup after only a couple of years, and then to get the next 2 after that as well, that must have been quite the experience as well, to do those 3 in a row.
Yeah, really, really amazing experience, and very different experiences. So the Germany one, I kind of snuck in. It was really the first tournament that ESPN kind of really blew out. They kind of discovered soccer and had previous World Cups, but the one before that obviously was in Japan, South Korea, and the time difference was awful with the US. So they kind of didn't blow that out. But then they really went to town in 2006. And I got in by the skin of my teeth as like the 5th commentating team. I was with Tommy Smith. I'm sure you remember him, the Irish legend. But we didn't get to go to Germany, so we did all the game. Just the 2 of us did all the games, sat in a booth in Connecticut, just like we did hundreds of games that weren't the World Cup. But all of a sudden, we were doing games that were the World Cup, which was, it was it was some experience. It was pretty amazing. We nearly. So here's a story for you. We had to do the second game. Back then, they did 2 games on opening day. You might remember that. So it was the Germany World Cup. Germany were playing Costa Rica on the opening day, and Tommy and I had the game after that, which was Poland against Ecuador, and we're getting set up to do that second game. And all of a sudden, we get panicked phone calls from producers saying the sound has gone down. There's no, we're not going to be able to have the commentators from Germany for the opening game. You've got to get ready to do it. So all of a sudden, we're preparing to do one game, Poland, Ecuador, and we're about half an hour away from Germany, Costa Rica kicking off. And there's a very real chance that we're going to have to sit there, having not prepared to do that game at all, and call the opening game of the World Cup. Luckily, they sorted out the twisted wires or whatever needed to be sorted out just in the nick of time. But we were scrambling. So that was my initiation into covering the World Cup. It wasn't such a comfortable one at all.
And a lot of people don't. I mean, a lot of people. Sometimes you don't realise the amount of effort and work that goes in behind the scenes before you're commentating on a game, right? I mean, there's certain players or the results of teams or the formation or the managers, all this stuff. You need to be extremely up to date on it. And it was like speaking with Ishmael, right? How referees prepare as well.
Yeah.
And you have to go into a game and really, prep your knowledge to know what you're talking about, plus being able to, especially in a World Cup, there's some players' names that you want to get right. There's some complicated names out there, and you've got to practice them.
Yeah, you're so right, Julian. I would say it's, anyone asks me, I say it's 85% of the job is preparation. It really is. It's like, doing the game's almost like the icing on the cake at the end, because you've done all the hard work just to get ready for it. And that's multiplied by 10 at a World Cup, where you know what games you're doing. Certainly through the group stages, you have your assignments. So you're preparing for all these games, and they come real quick because you don't have much time in between games. So you do a lot of preparation ahead of time. So anything that throws you off, saying, "Oh, I've suddenly got to do this other team." Well, I haven't looked at this other team, so I've got to do them blind. And it's the opening game of a World Cup. It's any commentator's worst nightmare. Let me tell you, to be asked to do a game with zero prep.
It's almost as bad as, so we were at BD Riley's the other day for the Tottenham Liverpool game, and the TVs went down in the second half, right? And there was and you can't imagine being the owner of a pub, so everyone's grabbing their phones as quickly as possible, and everyone's looking at their phones for what's going on. But it is and sometimes you see that on the TV from watching games over here or even back in England. Sometimes the sound cuts out and the new commentary team comes in, right?
Have they ever lost the sound of the game at BD Riley's before, Stephen?
No.
It has happened.
They've had it for momentarily, right? So everybody just pulls out their phone, or they'll lose the signal. But it's
it's rare though. It doesn't happen often at all. I mean, I think that's one of the first times that it's gone down for longer than a minute, 30 seconds, really. But the panic
that's
of everyone in
eternity,
the crowd, it is, right? But
they do a good job there at BD Riley's. They've been such good partners with obviously our supporters club, but also with our podcast, allowing us to record our shows there and taking over the back room. And so they've been very good supporters of just actually soccer in general. They're a soccer pub for Austin FC as well, and I'm sure they're looking forward to the World Cup and just having people from all around the world watching games. And I tell you, it's because of this season, the World Cup is in the winter. You're not getting the ramp up, right? Because we're all still engrossed into the club season. The Premier League still has another weekend of games, so you can't focus on the World Cup yet. And so, but I know once Sunday's over, that last Premier League game, not full attention is going to be on the World Cup. And I'm so excited. Obviously, there's a lot of noise surrounding the situation. Sepp Blatter coming out yesterday saying it was a mistake to award Qatar the World Cup, it being in the winter. Some of your thoughts about that, Adrian?
Well, can't even call it a day late and $1 short from Planet, can you? It's like 12 years too late. Where was this when he was standing there in 2010 saying Russia 2018, Qatar 22? He was all smiles. I mean, we knew, we covered the awarding of those 2 World Cups pretty extensively. We were all, that was the time for protest. That was the time for genuine protest. And now it's happening. There's nothing that's going to change it. So it's farcical, but once the ball starts rolling and the games kick off, that's what we're going to be focused on, and rightly so. So we'll all sit back and enjoy it. But it should never have been there in the first place. It shouldn't be a Winter World Cup either. But that's FIFA taking the money.
Klopp put it in his, I don't know if you saw his press conference the other day, but he put it brilliantly. We can't blame the players. And like what you said, the time to protest was 12 years ago. That was the time for the media to make a big deal about it, etc. The World Cup is here. It's starting in a week. We can't expect the players to have their own protests. It's not their fault necessarily, is it? I mean, they're kind of stuck. They can't not go, etc. So it is what it is at the moment. Of course, everyone knows the problems, etc., and the reasons it shouldn't be there. But the fact is, it is there. So now all you can really do is get behind your country and support as best you can, and hope it goes smoothly as well. I think that's but it's interesting again, back this weekend, there's going to be players out there, right, thinking about the World Cup. If we look at the Liverpool example, you've got Virgil van Dijk, who hasn't played in a major tournament, right? It's going to be on his mind. You've got Fabinho, who hasn't had a great season by any stretch of the imagination. He's going to be going with Brazil. Harry Kane's going to be thinking about it. We all know how he likes an injury. So it's going to be interesting this weekend, right? How it plays out. It's tough. What do you do? Because if you go as a player and if you go in half-hearted, you're more than likely to get an injury. So you have to play as you normally will, but mentally, it's definitely going to be playing on your mind.
And over here we've had Gareth Bale kind of coasting through.
I know
the last month with LAFC and basically not playing. He's been fully fit.
Right.
He hasn't played, and he came on for the last 30 minutes at MLS Cup, and obviously did what we've all seen him do, and he was brilliant. But it's like he's been wrapping himself in cotton wool for a month, let alone just one final weekend.
Obviously,
he's been wrapping himself in cotton wool for years.
Well, that's a different matter. But you're right.
You referenced Gareth Bale. Obviously, he's with the Wales team. They're in the same group as the United States and England and Iran. And we had Grant Wall a couple of days ago. We're talking to him about the U.S. men's national team and the roster and what the expectations were. Being a lad from Swindon, your thoughts about the England team? The rosters haven't really been named at the time of this recording. What are your expectations of them going through the group stages and where they may end up?
I have a harder time with this World Cup making any sort of cognizant predictions of success or otherwise for pretty much any team in it. I mean, the Brazil roster came out. We all looked at that and said, well, how are they not going to win it? Because they just look stacked. But I honestly, I don't know if you guys share this opinion. I honestly feel this World Cup, more than any, will be a level playing field. And, it's not necessarily going to be, plain sailing for any of the big guns. And I do include England in that. It's tough. They've done so well in the last couple of tournaments, a World Cup semi-final, a Euro final, and the agony of not winning that. You feel like this team should be primed for another deep run. I just don't have a great sense of them having sort of internal momentum at the moment and believe it. I don't have the same feeling about this England team as I had going into Russia and indeed the Euros. I don't know if you share those misgivings, Julian. And it isn't based on anything tactical or any feeling. This is going to be such a crazy World Cup. It is. Go on.
It is. I mean, overall as a whole, it is extremely hard to call this World Cup. There's no real standout. I mean, you would think France, but now with France's injuries, who knows? In regards to England, it was pretty close to feeling like the National League, the Euros, pretty much knew what Southgate's team was going to be. He was going to play Maguire at the back. He was going to play two defensive fullbacks because he didn't trust the centre back. So he would play Rice, in front of the back four along with Calvin Phillips. But that axis is broken. Maguire hasn't been playing. Calvin Phillips hasn't been playing. The fullbacks are pretty much the majority of them are injured. So Southgate's plan for the past two tournaments has been based on having a real solid back five, essentially. Or you could say back seven. And then with obviously Kane, and Sterling has been very good for England as well. He's relied on that. But it feels like Southgate's ultimate plan of being defensive with that back four and then the two defensive midfielders in front is kind of broken a little bit. But saying that, you look at a lot of the other squads, they have the injuries as well. So it is extremely open. If I was to pick a team right now who has had momentum the last 10 months and has a really good team spirit, plus you add the fact of it being Messi's final big tournament, probably, that I would probably go for Argentina. If I look at team spirit, I look at results. They, of course, won the Copa America. They have some fantastic attacking options, solid defensively. But I would be surprised if, well, it could be anyone, yes, but Argentina, Brazil, France. I would have said Portugal, but I don't like their manager, so I would have said one of them three. But anyway,
you can't go too wrong with that. And in terms of England, guys, I mean, I'd love to see James Maddison involved, because I think he's
so would I
in such great form, and he may not even be on the plane. I think he will be on the plane, but I don't think he's anywhere near a starting role. I think he should be. I just think.
Do you think he's going to go? Do you think? I mean, everyone feels like he should, but
I totally feel like he should. And if he takes 26, I don't see how he. Yeah, I mean, I guess he might not take him, but to me, he's a man. Yeah, I would love to see him. I'd love to see Jude Bellingham really make this his breakout World Cup as well. He seems to be primed. So I think you're right. Same formula. He's going to look to be tight defensively, and can Kane and Sterling do what he did at the Euros? He hasn't been in great form club wise, but he always seems to find another gear playing for England, doesn't he?
He really
do that again.
The difference between this going into this tournament than the last two major tournaments is that England really hasn't been on form, right? They've been struggling to score goals. And so, like you said, you don't ever know what's going to happen once these games start. They have their first game, I believe it's against
Iran,
and they're like an X factor. No one knows really what team they're going to put out there, the style that they're going to play, especially with Queiroz taking back over, what kind of style they're going to play. So I think that group, obviously from FIFA rankings, it's the most compressed of the rankings out of all the groups. So it really can go a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. And Iran are not to be overlooked, Stephen, at all. I can't profess to be an expert on their team, but I just, think back to South Korea, 2002, and South Korea, the home team, making it. I just feel like something similar is going to happen. There's going to be a surprise team that makes a semi-final here, and maybe from Asia, seeing it is in Asia. Even Qatar could do something. I saw Qatar play here in Austin last summer against the US, and they played them off the park for 60 minutes.
They did. They really did, didn't they?
Ended up losing 1-0, but missed a penalty. But they're not going to be pushovers, right? Especially not on home soil. So I think there's going to be a surprise team out of Asia for sure.
It seems like every World Cup there's a surprise, and I think that's just the beauty of that tournament, especially after a compressed season so far with all the. And it compressed actually summer. No one really had a holiday during the summer, and so it's going to be different where you're getting this World Cup in the middle of a season where people are fit versus at the end of a long club season where you're getting kind of the last fumes of people's fitness. So it's going to be interesting. The the atmosphere there is going to be a lot different from I think what everybody's expecting, especially different from when were you able to go down to Brazil to do the games?
Yeah,
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 so I mean, obviously going to be different atmosphere than being in Brazil.
yeah, and seeing some of those pictures that were on social media this morning about what the fan accommodation is going to be like, I'm actually kind of glad I'm not going to
Oh, the
Qatar.
little
I mean,
huts.
yeah, the huts,
I saw those.
$200 a night huts. And I mean, no thanks.
That's miserable. That's...
But and also as part of the, you mentioned the timing of the World Cup, also a week together at the most for these teams when the managers get the players together. I mean, we saw here in the US, Greg Berhalter announcing his team today, and he said he's not going to have all the players with him till the 14th in Qatar, and that leaves them basically 6 days to train. So that's going to be very different for every team, where they normally get 3 weeks at least to be together.
And that's one of the things that you can't overlook, because like the United States, and I don't know the England situation, I know the United States is not going to have any warm-up games prior to their first game, where Iran has 2 friendlies scheduled, before their first game. So that's for people that have played or been around the game, they know the familiarity you get just through playing games. Something you can't emulate on a training pitch, during training sessions. So that may be a key factor as well during those first games.
Yeah, national teams who are able to emulate club team chemistry often succeed, and think of Greece in 2004. What did they have? They didn't have much. They had a hell of a spirit and camaraderie and teamwork, and that can take you far on the international stage.
That's the thing with Southgate as well. With a lot of these players, they've grown up with him. They played for Southgate under 21, so they understand the system. They understand his style. They understand his work ethic. And you look, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's not going to be a surprise that the squad he takes and the first team, the team that starts against Iran, is probably going to be made up again of the majority of them players that played for him in a particular formation, because he's stuck to it ever since he was the under 21 manager. And you can see that chemistry, even though England haven't done well the past, since the Euros, really, sometimes that's not a good indicator. I mean, Germany used to struggle always, and then they'd show up. Any major tournament, the Germans would show up, right? So sometimes results, they don't really indicate how a team's going to do, but it's open from what I can tell. I can't. It's really hard to pick. But
Brazil the same. Remember that's how often they struggled to actually qualify to South America. Finish 4th or 5th after just squeezing through, and then I think when they won it last in 2002, I think they had barely qualified out of South America. No one had any high hopes for them heading in. So you're so right. Tournaments are their own animal. You can't really go on any recent form, especially with friendlies or even the Nations League. So
I wanted to ask you a question, Adrian, because you mentioned Brazil and how you did the World Cup there. I always wanted to ask somebody that was there, like just the tenor of the population after Brazil got beat by Germany. Just because they're expecting to win the final at home, and then just to get totally demolished, and that had to have been a weird situation, even for the announcers that were in that environment.
Well, full disclosure, I was home by then.
Oh, were you there? Okay.
That was the semi-final, and my last game was a quarterfinal. I did the Holland Costa Rica quarterfinal, and then had to come back and do an MLS game. So I watched that semi-final from back in the US, but yeah, I mean, I did a Brazil game in the group stage against Cameroon, and I knew that whole country would just be in paralytic shock, because it just I couldn't believe what I was watching that day. Could not believe they just lost their minds, didn't they? It was just like trying to go on.
You got out just in time, didn't you? Before that
I did. I've been home 2 days, and I was like, wow. But it was just like this perfect storm. They did everything wrong that day. They wanted to win so badly, and I think I think the only saving grace for Brazil in that World Cup was that Argentina didn't win it either, because that was the ultimate tragedy.
You've done so many of these games over the years. When is there a game that sticks out to you that like while you're announcing it, you're just thinking to yourself, "Man, I'm so glad to be here and be part of this atmosphere, just the quality that's on the pitch and just the drama involved."
Oh, yeah, Steve and Julie. I mean, there's tons. I've been very lucky to do some big games. I mean, we talked about the World Cups. I've done a few Champions League finals, which were very, very special. I did the Barcelona Man United final at Wembley in 2011. That was kind of that felt like one of the best team displays I'd ever witnessed by anyone. And I got to see Barcelona train on the Wembley surface the day before, and that was when they were at the peak of their powers, just pinging that ball around, and that was really, really special to be there for that, and because that was a good Man United team, and they just wiped the floor with them.
That was a brilliant day. I remember watching that. I was so
yeah,
that was so good. Yes,
but also knowing who the audience is for this. One of the favorite games I ever did. I wasn't there in person. It was a game I was calling remotely from Connecticut. Just sat in the studio watching it on the same screen as everyone else. But it was the 2006 FA Cup final. The Stevie G show, and the funny thing about that is, I mean, it was just such an amazing cup final to call. We only ever did 3 FA Cup finals because we didn't have the rights for very long. It only went out to Australia, but watching that and just coming a year after Istanbul, it was just like, this can't be happening again, can it? Well, it did. And then so the goalkeeper that Steven Gerrard beat with that shot
your mate now
was Shaka Hislop, and
Hislop.
Just a year later he rolls up, having retired at ESPN, and becomes very good close friends of ours and work with us a lot. Yeah. So we remind him of that goal very often. Let's just say very often indeed. If ever we needed to have a little dig at Shaka, we'd just say, "Hey, Stevie G."
Stevie G. Well, at least he can feel good about the fact that probably no keeper in the world would have stopped that. If it was a mistake, okay, but yeah, I mean, that was unstoppable.
Well, if you're not going to mess with him, I'm sure Stevie Nicol would take the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, there are lots of other games. You know, any major tournament game you're at is always special to do as a commentator. You feel like it's a real privilege.
Well, sometimes, and I was speaking about this with someone the other day, sometimes commentary like sticks with you, right? Like I can think of particular moments of commentary from games from like 25 years ago, and that can go for a lot of people. You can hear the commentary,
sure,
remember who it was, remember the game, even without hearing who the teams were, and you just hear this moment of commentary, and it just sticks with you. Like music, it takes you to a time and place when you hear that. And it's the same with that Gerrard goal, or the Martin Tyler Gerrard in the Champions League, or the John Motson, the Ian Rush against Everton in the FA Cup final, and going all the way back to there's people on the pitch, you know. So it becomes these like legendary moments that kind of stick with everyone throughout the years. They really do. Is there any particular piece of commentary that you remember and you knew the moment you said it, like, oh, that was perfect?
Like, something I said.
Something you said.
Well, it's a game that not many people will probably remember, but it was a game at the Brazil World Cup where it was Colombia. So I had actually great fortune to do a couple of the Colombia games in the group stage, and Colombia were if anything, just as well supported as Brazil. I don't know if you remember, they had the Yellow Army with them traveling around, and it was just a big party wherever Colombia went. And they kind of played that way as well. That was a special Colombia team. That was the James Rodriguez team. And they play, I think it was the Ivory Coast game, and they played and they went 1-0 up. And then when they went 2-0 up, can't remember if it was James who scored. It must have been, because I said, I don't know how it came into my mind to say this, but I kind of had just remembered before the game that Shakira was Colombian. And I think I was wondering if she was going to be in the stadium, and I was like, the goal went in. I was like, well, move over, Shakira. Colombia's got a new number one, and it's James Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And Shakira herself, well, obviously wasn't the game because apparently she tweeted something about hearing that commentary and going, LOL, LOL.
There you go. See, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Adrian, we appreciate you spending a few minutes with us today, and we're so happy to hear your stories. And I, for one, I think I've told you this before. I always felt like the first big business as Austin FC as a club did was to get you away from ESPN and bring you as the main announcer here in Austin. So, we enjoy your company, seeing you at the pub and seeing you at the games, and we can't wait to hear more games that you call in the future. And we're all looking forward to the World Cup. And we're less than a week away now, and I feel like it's like getting to be towards Christmas, almost.
It's getting to be serious, isn't it? I tell you, BDs are going to have to get used to opening early, aren't they? Some of those starts here in Central Time are going to be testing.
All I know is
5 a.m. Is that one? Is that the earliest?
There's some at 4 a.m.
Some at 4, right?
Yeah, they won't be open. I mean, we'll see.
I'm actually so I'm going to be here for the first little bit of the World Cup, but then actually right on the day of the England-Wales game, which is the third group stage, I'm going over to the UK and I'm going to be there for the rest of the tournament. So I'm cheating a little bit because I'll be able to get to watch it at a more comfortable time zone with 7 p.m. kickoffs in the pub. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's better. You're gonna be here for the England-USA game.
So I will be in Austin.
That's the one I'm waiting for.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mr. Wilson, get ready.
That's right. Yeah, I'm coming back from out of town just for that game. I'm leaving Dallas to come down and make sure I'm among my expat friends for that game.
There is going to be a lot of us there.
Oh, I know.
We'll be at BDs for that one. So
yeah,
definitely will.
Maybe. Do you remember watching the last England-US game at the World Cup in South Africa? Do you remember where you were watching that?
Yes, I do. I was in Austin on 6th Street at
Fido's?
No, I wasn't at Fido's. I was at third base. It was third base was still open at that time, and that's where I watched that particular game. So
nice. I was over in South Africa, and I think I had some other game that day, so I was kind of watching it. Like there's three games a day, so if you're doing one of the games that day, you tend to be just focused on your game and kind of half watching what's going on in the other games. So that was my situation that day. I wasn't able to just kick back and watch it and soak it in. But I think similar result this time, 1-1. Would we take that? I don't know. Both teams.
Wilson will take that. He'd take a 1-0 loss. Come on.
Oh man.
Come on.
The banter begins.
It does begin.
We got to wait through the Premier League game this weekend, and then we can start.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to expect out of this US team either. They're pretty young.
I mean, they are the youngest team by far in the World Cup this cycle. So we'll see. There's talent. There's more players playing in Europe than there's ever been for that squad. But you just don't know how people perform on the biggest of stages until you get there, right? So
Can we get Bobby Firmino renaturalized quickly in the next 2 days? If Brazil don't want him, the US could do with him.
That's shocking. How can they not take Firmino? I mean, come on. He's never really been a main player for Brazil. I mean, he started a few games, but he's never been the main. But I'm still surprised.
In the form he's in, you just think, there's got to be a space for him on the bench somewhere. But
there'll be injuries this weekend. I guarantee he gets pulled up. Someone will be injured. I mean, Richarlison's still injured, I believe. He thinks he'll be back, but
well, we'll see.
Be a space for him. But
So, well, again, thanks for joining us, Adrian. For all those people out there, thank you for joining us on our channel. Our subscribers keep increasing every week, and it's all down to you guys for clicking like and subscribing to our channel. And can't wait to to talk to you guys on the next episode, and we're bringing more stories about the World Cup while the Liverpool is not playing. So look for more content.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This is a real pleasure, and I hope to get to watch the England-US with you. That would be special.
That's gonna be great.
That will be good. All right, thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.